2030 in the United States, we will not have coal plants. By 2035, President Biden has set a target that we will be carbon-free.
Look, our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes it an even stronger case for doubling down our investment and our focus on clean energy options.
This Build Back Better bill will build more affordable houses around the country, make it cheaper and easier for people to live near jobs that they want to take. Big drivers of cost.
I understand that. None of that is going to impact inflation right now.
Tension and frustration behind the scenes between Vice President Kamala Harris and the White House. The accounts come from nearly 36 current and former Harris aides, administration officials, Democratic operatives.
There was a report, excuse my language, not mine, it was in the report, that you talked to him that morning and you said you could be a patriot or you can be a Did you really say that, or is that a incorrect?
I wouldn't dispute it.
Really?
I wouldn't dispute it.
I'm sorry, but that is funny.
He also didn't say he said it necessarily.
Oh, I'm sure he said it.
He's just leaving
There's no way
it out
he didn't
there.
say it. He absolutely. He's proud of it. He likes that he said it.
Or he likes that people are saying that he said it.
Right? Yeah. There's no doubt. The shocking Trump audio. I mean, what do you want to say? I mean, he believes he won the election. He believes it was stolen from him. He believes that
Mike Pence had the power to do something about it.
To do something patriotic and right. He's listening to voices tell him to do that. He's all in. He's all in, and so he believes it. I just hope that that he is not the nominee for president. That is what I hope. I hope somehow something else amuses him so much that he doesn't want to do it. Because we're done. We're done here. We're done. January 6th was a bad day to end all bad days. His lack of response was crap. It was truly dropping the ball, and that was finito. Mm-hmm. This holding on to it is the Democrats' dream, the fact that he won't shut up about it.
Well, yeah, I actually think it hurts them a lot more that he's not on Twitter than it hurts any Republicans. Like the fact that his statements are sort of limited in how far they're able to spread and stuff. And that's why he's getting more and more outrageous with the stuff he says. Like there's a rude statement about Colin Powell or whatever, you know, like.
What was his latest rude statement? He said something mean about Meghan McCain, but he had another one a couple of days ago.
Yeah, but they don't travel as far, and they aren't as shocking because people aren't able to like see them as much. So it just it doesn't give the Democrats anything to do. Nobody's like listening to it, so it's really good. Like
the thing is, if they could, they would run against Trump's Twitter in 2022. And they would hope to as well. But you're right. Twitter has really done the Republicans a huge favor and forced the media, unfortunately, to start focusing on this administration, which is stepping on rakes every 10 seconds, and which sucks, which is terrible. It is so interesting just to see, all of the Republicans had already moved were already either anti-Biden or had gone to the middle and had subsequently moved right. So everything we're seeing with these awful poll numbers are Democratic base, true believer Democrats saying this guy sucks.
Right.
So, and he's down to 39% or something. And he's getting in his rating. People, I've never before seen polling. I mean, I guess I kind of exclude Trump for this because he was such a hurricane. But to have both Democrats and Republicans say this guy is terrible with the economy and can't handle a job, that ain't good.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, and you mentioned poll numbers, but ABC, everyone's talking about this like ABC Washington Post poll that's out that was sorry. What's happening? Something's making noise on my computer. I hate things that autoplay on the computer. Sorry.
Mute your tab.
Sorry, mute tab, I guess. But it's the ABC poll tab that I opened. But he has a huge problem, not just Biden, but the Democratic Party as a whole, because he's seen as the leader of the party, and they have a huge problem in a bunch of states with the congressional races as well. So it's unheard of. Republicans never lead on the generic congressional ballot. It's like weird for them too, because a lot of people like the generic congressional ballot is just when they ask you like, would you vote for the Democrat or the Republican in the race if it were held today? Like without naming any names of who it is, like not knowing who it's going to be. Are you going to vote Democrat or vote Republican in the congressional races? So, and Republicans never lead on that because a lot of people think they're going to vote for the Democrat until it gets down to the race, you know? But right now, Republicans have a huge lead on the generic congressional ballot. It's 51% of voters say they'd support the Republican candidate and 41% say Democrat. It's the biggest lead for Republicans in 110 ABC Post polls that have asked this question since November 1981.
Wow.
Indeed, it's only the second time the GOP has held an advantage. The other was 7 points in January 2002, and this is 10 points. And it's the 9th time it's had any numerical edge at all.
Wow. In early 81 is Reagan coattails, Reagan having been shot, you know.
Right.
And wow.
So that's in the whole time they've been polling that question. This is like the best Republicans have ever polled. And that's not Biden, you know, that he's not in the question. They didn't ask, you know, if they approve of the policy or whatever. But people are really, really unhappy with the direction the Democratic Party as a whole under Biden's leadership has taken. And that's going to, I mean, everyone, it's early. I wouldn't. Yes, if I were a Republican, I wouldn't freak out and get excited and start talking about how many seats we're going to win next year yet.
Well, no, because the Republicans are very capable of effing this whole thing up. There's no doubt. And then Trump could come out back to the scene and somehow, you know, smash through the table, etc. But Alice, think what's coming down the road for Democrats. First of all, is this the $3 trillion or $1 trillion, whatever it is now, the Build Back Better bill, which is a huge cash purge into the economy. Which is inflationary, absolutely, and people know that. You don't have to be really smart to know that. And just giving away, free money giveaway to wackos, etc., spending money, which people, though people do like separate parts of things, you know, the idea of extended free daycare, etc., is understandably attractive to people because daycare is effing crazy. But so they've got that coming up. Then they're going to have a debt ceiling vote to come up. And then the other two Biden agenda items coming down the line are voting rights, which is what he owes Alcee Hastings, which is one that he can't get away from. The Democrats have to try to do voting rights. I think nationally they lose that argument every time. Because
all the provisions of the thing are incredibly unpopular. Like something ridiculous, like 80% of Democrat and minority voters like agree there should be voter ID laws. Like, I mean, it's the provisions of these quote like civil rights legislation. Like, no one agrees with.
As a matter of fact, Alex, you'll be proud of me today at Market Basket. I signed 2 petitions. One was for a voter ID in Massachusetts, and the other was for. What the hell was the other one for?
There's a whole bunch of them out there.
It was
I don't
voter
know what
ID,
they are.
and then
there's like an election integrity one, and there's some. That's probably the voter ID, and then there's something else.
Oh, car tax, auto tax.
Oh, okay.
Tax.
There was one of our listeners
TCI
was actually posting recently. He was doing standouts to get signatures for stuff.
Oh, well, this guy.
He was posting on Facebook about it, so I know
this guy was at a Haverhill Market Basket, the nice Market Basket in Haverhill.
Yeah.
So guess what else is on the Biden agenda for next year, the election year, Alice?
Tax increases?
No.
I don't know what.
Even worse. Think
COVID mandates?
No, think Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh, gun control?
Police reform.
Oh, okay.
Police reform is on the
good. That worked out well for them in 2020, I think, too.
But this is the deal Biden made with Democrats, that they would do police reform. It is, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better set of circumstances to come down here. As long as Republicans can step back and shut up, and Trump can manage to stay away from the fray. I mean, it is remarkable what is coming down. That is this. What's happened since the fallout culturally from George Floyd and all that stuff. Hang on one second. What can we help you with?
Do you need to plug in your device? Did you run it out of batteries?
No. Cyril has a charger and he's not.
You can. There's another charger in that room. First of all, in the corner.
You can speak into the mic, Alice. People can kind of hear you.
Okay. Well, Anson is having trouble charging his iPad. There's another charger in that room over in the corner by the round drum table. And you can also ask for a turn with the charger and said, I said so. Ask James and Sally to help you. They're in charge.
Thanks, buddy. So that stuff, the police reform stuff, and it's funny. It's essentially my radio show in Connecticut is about 49% police reform. And they're rolling back, rethinking police and the ramifications all over the state. And this is not just happening in Connecticut. This is happening all over the place, where certain types of crime now are through the roof. Through the roof. Here I am. Thanks. Alice, when you get rich from your new job, we're going to need to talk about some equipment. Yes.
Okay. Maybe we'll get a roadcaster.
Ooh, imagine that. Although, it takes the whole entire operation down to almost nil. So just, it is remarkable what's going on. And but once again, Trump needs to, somebody give Trump something to do, please. Do whatever you need. Send him somewhere.
Isn't he starting a social media or something?
Yes, and he just sold the Trump, the DC hotel.
I mean, that's fine. Why doesn't he focus on starting his social media empire and maybe a TV channel?
Right, because he has the opportunity to try to play kingmaker next year and destroy prospects for Senate and the House.
Right.
I mean, it is so dangerous. He could, and he will, if he feels like he's not being respected. He is happy to wear a suicide vest at any time. I mean, as a matter of fact, he enjoys it, I think. So we'll see. But, and also the great thing that Republicans have right now is that the Team Biden still now finally in the last couple of weeks they've started to acknowledge that there's an inflation problem and acknowledge that there's a labor crisis in this country. But not really. And they shopped Brian Deese around there today. So I did my Sunday shows today. And Brian Deese is the director of the White House's National Economic Council. He's the brains, behind getting us out of this thing. And he was on a couple of shows. And basically, people, it's almost like Chuck Todd and Jake Tapper were basically pummeling him, saying, wake the hell up. Everything you're mentioning doesn't help now. And he kept trying to of course, just pitch Build Back Better.
This Build Back Better bill will build more affordable houses around the country, make it cheaper and easier for people to live near jobs that they want to take. It will reduce the cost of health care, reduce prescription drug prices, cap out-of-pocket costs for seniors. These are big drivers of cost.
I understand that. None of that is going to impact inflation right now. So I guess the question is there much... Do you believe that just at the end of the day, everything you've done is everything that can be done with inflation? Or are there more tools in the toolbox that you might use if you think it's getting worse?
We can address this issue in the short term and the medium term. In the short term, we're focused on executing a strategy to finish the task on COVID. Those are immediate steps that we know actually will help return our economy to a sense of normalcy. Affecting supply chains, working with ports. The president stepped in with the port of LA and Long Beach a couple of weeks ago to get them to go to 24/7. In just the last couple of weeks.
Notice how he said that. He stepped in to get them to go to 24/7. So what's the stronger way to say that?
He yelled at businesses and told them what to do?
He stepped in and got them to go to 24/7. But he didn't. He stepped in to get them to go to 24/7. And he put it that way. Why?
Because they didn't go to 24/7.
Correct.
Weeks, the share of containers sitting on docks idly has come down by 20%. Those are the kind of...
That's another thing. It's like, I don't get this. Don't tell people that they don't know what they're seeing and feeling. The number of container ships is down 20%. What you and I see are an F load of container ships out in the harbor. So don't come down on one knee and condescend to me and say, that's down 20%. Well, F you. It needs to be down more percents because there's lots of ships just sitting out there and we've never had this before. It's a phenomenon out there.
Well, right. And people don't care what number percent you tell them inflation is or, what percent ships in the harbor or whatever. People care if they go to the grocery store and the shelf is empty, or people care if their grocery bill is all of a sudden higher, or they're spending 50% more on gas than they were last year. people care about this stuff. Like, you and I notice stuff like that because we watch and absorb a ton of news. But a lot of people, like, don't listen to any news. They just notice when they go fill up their car and they're like, whoa, that was really expensive, you know?
Well, but I disagree that people don't care. I think people get ticked off. And they say, stop telling me that my pain has decreased 20% when my pain has not decreased 20%. You know, so stop giving me good news. In other words, bleed with me, you know? Bleed with me a little bit. No, things are 20% better for you. No, they're not. They're not. So don't tell me that. It's so condescending, and it's such a detachment, and it's political suicide. It's like what George H.W. Bush was saying when he was running against Clinton in '92. You know, it takes 2 consecutive quarters, I think, of negative growth to make a recession. And on the third quarter, there was positive growth. So Bush kept going around pitching to people that the recession was technically over. Meanwhile, people are hurting. So don't tell them the recession's over, because for me, it's not over.
No, it's like McCain in 2008, remember, saying the fundamentals of our economy are strong. Like...
Right.
Don't tell people it's going great when they can see that it's obviously not.
Right. No, that is mostly peaceful protest, you know, with the fire behind it.
Steps we can take in the short term, but I don't think we should downplay the medium term here. If we can act immediately to invest in childcare, cut the cost of childcare in half for the typical family, that's going to be a game changer for families and help get more people into the workplace as well. We've got to work in the short term and the medium term here as well.
But yeah, I mean, the Democrats have been doubling down on this strategy now for a while, where there is a variety of forms that it takes, but one is, you're poor, must suck to be you, tough luck. And that one, it's some like Hollywood writer guy, Bob Schooley. Have you even heard of him? I've never heard of him. But anyway, he tweeted some house with Trump flags on it. That he saw in LA, and there was like an older car in the driveway, so a bunch of people immediately glommed on and decided that it was like trashy and poor. Rachel Bitecover, who's this sort of analyst person, even though no one likes her, even on her own side, goes, Republican voter who can't even afford a car from this century.
Oh, fantastic.
And then, like, they're all replying to it. This one woman who ended up deleting her tweet tweeted, can't see the whole house, but I'm betting on at least 3 distinct roofing materials. That was Kyrie O'Connor. Do you know who that is?
No.
I don't know who any of these people are, but they all have blue check marks, so they must be important.
Oh, that's great.
And they're like all in the replies saying, like, essentially, I guess racial identity politics outweighs economics. Like,
what does that even mean?
It means that they're poor and they're dumb, and so that's why they're not voting for their interests. They're just voting against, people of color because they're racist, so they can't vote for their own interests because, yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't know if the make fun of, and this, I think this is actually, like, the way that the photo's cropped, it's kind of hard to tell, but I think it's actually kind of a nice house. So, but yeah, like in the comments, I wonder how much state assistance they get every month. Bet it's more than me.
Oh, beautiful.
Maybe he can afford another car under Biden. Like, I mean, it's just incredible. Let me guess, older white couple who don't get out much and don't talk to any neighbors. Looks like a prime example of people that vote against their own interests. Like, I mean, like, how is that strategy going to help you electorally? Like, I don't know how the Democrats send out their bat signal of what the messaging is going to be, but they should send out something that drowns out that if they want to get elected.
Oh, yeah.
Because the making fun of poor people approach is not going to help you win back any of the voters you've lost, and it's going to continue to drive away working class Hispanic and Black voters as well, because, they're also not elite, wonderful, beautiful people.
No.
And, like, they hear you making fun of those people for, like, the same house and car that you have. Like, it doesn't matter that they tell you you're actually okay because of the color of your skin. Like, I mean, like, you can hear it in the way that they talk about people that they hate you.
Yes, it's a mantra of shut up, you're stupid. Shut up, you're stupid. And, like, they say, shut up, you're stupid, shut up, you're stupid, shut up, you're stupid. So that then all these people, vote them out in Virginia. And their answer? shut up, you're stupid and racist. Well, okay.
I guess double down on this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many, if you see Biden's polling numbers, I mean, I don't know what niche do you want to leave unscathed by your freaking bigotry and hatred, but you're taking chunks out every time you do that. It's remarkable. And the fact that sometimes the fact that the left still owns the culture, the big Klieg lights marquee culture anyway,
right,
works against them. So here's just a little bit of Saturday Night Live with Pete Davidson acting as Joe Rogan, talking to Big Bird, and there's how that goes.
Well, that's right. I used to host Fear Factor, and now doctors fear me.
Can you help me, Joe?
Oh, sure thing, Big Bird. You see, I took Carlos Mencia down. I could take COVID.
Is that meant to be a Joe Rogan impression?
Yes.
It doesn't.
No, Joe Rogan doesn't talk like that. And also
Has any of them ever listened to Joe Rogan for 5 minutes?
No, and also, so right now the Rogan character in this by Pete Davidson is handing Big Bird a bunch of pills. But also, the Joe Rogan Carlos Mencia dust-up is very inside baseball. And it's something that happened years ago. Mm-hmm. And nobody got it in the audience.
Right, I didn't get it either.
But they're not writing comedy, they're writing protests. So they're just, the idea is not to really get laughs. The idea is to call more people stupid.
An ayahuasca and some horse medicine.
Well, why would a bird take horse medicine?
I'm a human, and I took horse medicine. And I'm speaking of things that are horse-like. Today's two sponsors are the letters S and D, as in I can S my own D.
Great. That was real funny, excellent writing, huh? Speaking of horse, it's so, and also, Rogan turned the tide on these elitists when he defenestrated Sanjay Gupta.
Right.
And CNN. So now for them to do it again and try to throw down, did nobody read anything? Did nobody see what happened?
Yeah, he already won this round, yes. Guys. You're fighting a fight that was lost a while ago. And the fact that, who can forget I can afford people medicine?
Right.
MFR. That's the line that ends the conversation. He took people medicine that was prescribed by a doctor. Gupta admitted that CNN just lied about that on air and that, it's done. It's not a funny joke because it's not accurate. It's not making fun of something that happened. It's just...
Horse dewormer's not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing... That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow, stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it winning the Nobel Prize in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, mother. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're going so fast. I feel like I'm missing. Do
you think that's a problem that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude.
What did they say?
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease. And as you say, it's probably, I think 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did.
So there you go. I could, I didn't intend on playing 2 minutes of it, but still, it just goes to show you. I mean, they all are pretending that didn't happen. That they're so culturally cool and civilized that they're pretending that Rogan didn't change the game when it comes to this.
We just like making jokes about Joe Rogan taking horse dewormer, even though nothing remotely like that happened. So we're going to keep making fun of him for taking horse dewormer.
By the way, Alice, are we going to get hit on YouTube for playing that?
Oh, maybe. What's the date today? Oh, it's 11/14. I think one of our strikes expired, so I think we won't be permanently banned if we get another strike.
It's still found on YouTube.
If it happens again, we'll lose 2 weeks. Okay. If it is on YouTube, then we should be okay.
Doesn't matter. Okay, so so there you go. And it's just ridiculous in this attitude that they have, and so it's this condescending behavior. They're trying to pitch the Build Back Better thing. Meanwhile, people are done with this stuff, and then they send out Vivek Murthy out there today as well, the Surgeon General.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to get people vaccinated and boosters and kids vaccinated. And he was on, where was he on? He was on Fox News Sunday. And he actually almost got out of there perfectly untouched. He actually mostly didn't lie for a lot of it. And then at the very end, conflated things. We know that kids do get sick. We know all this stuff is normal, but still, for him, it was a pretty earnest interview. He pretty much, but Chris Wallace asked basic questions, and I was like, wow, I haven't heard this guy not be a condescending, creeping authoritarian in quite a while. This is good until he couldn't control himself.
He can't keep it in.
This is how this interview ended. This is the Surgeon General of the United States. He's a flack doctor who's there for messaging. He's a friendly face, for messaging on health items, health, fitness, et cetera, et cetera. Listen to what he says. Listen to how many holy crap red flag words that you can that grab you.
Look, I think the principle of freedom when it comes to health, but in general, is a very important one. Freedom is an important value that brought my family to this country as immigrants years ago, and it's brought so many immigrant families to this nation. It's extraordinarily important. But keep in mind, we are a community of 300 million people. We are not sole individuals entirely on our own. And in any community, sometimes our decisions do affect other people. It's why, Chris, we have speed limits on highways.
First of all, why is a doctor talking about the social compact in America? Our relationship with government, our relationship with why are we hearing this is a theory that he's talking about?
Yeah, just stick to putting warning labels on cigarette packs and leave me alone.
I don't want to hear his worldview. What the frig is that? Is this his TED Talk? It's craziness.
Because we know our decision about how fast we drive affects the safety of others. When it comes to getting vaccinated, we know that people who are unvaccinated are at higher risk of getting sick and spreading it to others, which is why in many settings, Chris, we have made the decision as a community to require...
Community. What other thing starts with commune? Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, stop saying that we're a community. Stop talking like this. It's as if he's deep into the community, of countries. And it's odd.
Our vaccines in schools, for example, all across our country and in certain workplace settings. That's why these are so important here too, Chris. So while freedom is absolutely important, we also have a collective responsibility to one another when our decisions impact the health and well-being of others.
Collective responsibility.
Yeah, maybe he should stay away from C words like
collective
and commune.
It's remarkable that these people, they just can't help themselves, though. But
yeah, there is also a strain on the left amongst, and I think it's like related to this of like saying we have a responsibility to each other and we all need to work together, and like it's not obviously just COVID where this comes from. You also see it with like the climate stuff, and like now you're seeing it with the supply chain stuff a little bit too. So like Bloomberg, irony, came out with this piece 2 days ago that said Americans need to learn to live more like Europeans. Supply chain shortages are constraining U.S. consumers' endless appetite for buying whatever they want whenever they want. It's about time. And goes on to tell us that we should be more like European countries where we have a little bit slower growth and we lower our consumption of stuff, and that, you know, our houses are too big and we own too many things. Imagine the irony of Bloomberg's publication writing that.
Right.
That, you know, you're just living a little bit too well and maybe you should get used to things being a little, it's about time you learn to slow down all your spending, and maybe this supply chain shortage will be good for you.
It's what the old man likes, though. He's a nanny stater guy. You know, don't you think you have enough boxes coming here? Should you have that much soda? And that's his thing. But, you know, the media continues to also... it can't get out of its own way when it comes to supply chain stuff and economics. Shockingly, the trucker shortage, Alice, we've discovered a trucker shortage. Tiffany D. Cross of MSNBC is pointed to the problem.
I have to tell you, I talked to a lot of truck drivers and preparing for this segment, and most of these truck drivers are people of color, and they talked about, you know, hearing some of the racism over the CV. You know, this is, again, an industry populated by a lot of white men over the age of 55. This group of people overwhelmingly voted for Trump. Some people have talked about, you know, aggressive truck drivers cutting them off or not being helpful.
That a way to stay on target, right? The racism in trucking, that's what's causing it. Great. That faction of the Democratic Party, enjoy that. That's wonderful. Man.
Yeah, great. I've read another explanation for the supply shortage, the labor supply shortages from Business Insider, which is about...
Oh, that's the Dave Portnoy Taker Downer magazine.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot the connection. But, yeah, so they also did a nice long piece, a look at why Gen Zers are choosing to join a movement called the anti-work movement. A workers' strike that wants to turn the labor shortage into the new American dream. Larry had a vision after he graduated college. He and his then-wife were going to be a power couple. They were going to actualize the American dream. They'd buy a house in the suburbs and go on vacation every 2 years. The vision of the perfect life eventually shattered. His then-wife saw through the illusion of work, he said, and quit to take care of their children and her elderly father. It took him longer to get there. It's something that someone else planted in our minds, Larry said. Now, Larry, 52, doesn't work. By the time the pandemic hit, he was ready for a change. He left his job as a maintenance technician in South Carolina to be with his ex-wife and children in Colorado. When he got laid off from a seasonal job there, he moved back to South Carolina to be with his mother. Now he lives simply in a 20-foot trailer in her backyard. I really don't have any expenses. I don't need any money. I can survive without money, he said.
There you go, Larry.
So he's 52, but they're saying that most of the trend is Gen Zers that have decided that, you know, maybe they don't really.
We're just not interested in this life.
This work thing, it's just not all it's cracked up to be.
We're going back to bed.
A rising disillusion with the state of work has spawned millions of Larrys over the last year. People have been quitting their jobs at record rates for 6 months in a row, and many aren't going back. That's because for some, work doesn't seem to be worth it anymore.
Wow. You know what? I wish I'd thought of that. I wish I'd thought of that. All those years, you know, working and selling trolley tickets and vacuuming huge ballrooms. And...
Yeah. The stories of those in the anti-work movement provide some answers to why there's an ongoing labor shortage. Whether bosses realize it or not, workers are effectively striking for better conditions, and it might work. A lot of people mistake anti-work for being lazy and like nothing has to ever get done, said one moderator of the anti-work subreddit. But the truth of the matter is that anti-work and everything surrounding it is that obviously things have to get done, but the current structure in which things get done and the way that capital flows as they get done is unfair and should be non-existent.
Totally agree.
Cade,
they should get paid for their anti-work.
Yeah, Cade, a Gen Z worker in Kansas, is one of the people who turned to Reddit's anti-work forum and posted after he quit his job as a service worker. He had been considering quitting for a while, but was pushed over the edge after his boss posted a sign telling workers they couldn't use their phones during shifts.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you can't. That's untenable.
Yeah, can't do that.
I love how they've rebranded themselves. I'm part of an anti-work philosophy. No, what you are is an effing deadbeat. That's all you are. You're just an effing deadbeat.
Yeah, no, and they just got used to being at home.
I'm doing anti-work now.
I know, like
loser.
They stayed home during the pandemic, and they were like, "This is nice, just staying home all the time. I like it. Like it's nice. They can watch Netflix and, you know."
I like Larry though. I like him getting a trailer in the back of his mom's house because it would be lame to be in the house. I don't live with my mom. No, I don't technically. Yeah, but you're on her land in the trailer. Yeah, it's not the same thing as living with her.
I don't need money. Well, you're living on somebody's land who's
I can
paying
still take
taxes and stuff.
Okay. I want to see all the match profiles and all the dating profiles of the anti-workers.
I'm anti-work.
Oh, my goodness. What a time. What a time. Jesus, my God, we suck. Right, another part of this that I want to get to. Oh, that's right. Just going back to the situation that we're in, of course, and this doesn't bode well for anti-workers because gas prices are rising. But this is
Larry doesn't need money.
This shows that the administration is once again detached from where people's minds are. Here's Jen Psaki.
Look, our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down our investment and our focus on clean energy options so that we are not relying on the fluctuations and OPEC and their willingness to put more supply and meet the demand in the market.
That's great. No, this is great news, the trajectory of gas prices. We're finally going to make the transition we're looking for, which John Kerry last week at the Coachella climate con.
I keep thinking it looks like COPD, but that can't be the name of it.
Couldn't help but being excited about the near future.
By 2030 in the United States, we will not have coal plants. By 2035, President Biden has set a target that we will be, in our power sector, carbon-free.
Is that likely to make Joe Manchin vote for Build Back Better more or less, do you think?
I would say less. He's already a little spooked because of the inflation, and most people agree that dumping more government spending into the economy doesn't make inflation go down, but, you know.
Right, but no, you know, guess who's been confirmed? Your buddy.
Here what I'm thinking about is primarily coal industry and oil and gas industry. A lot of the smaller players in that industry are going to probably go bankrupt in short order. At least we want them to go bankrupt if we want to tackle climate change, right?
That is communist Saleh Omarova, who now works for the United States Treasury.
Great. That's perfect.
Excellent messaging from this administration. It's just endless.
I definitely didn't think, who's making these choices? You know, like Biden didn't sit down and was like, oh, we need another Treasury employee. Let's get that lady. Like, you know, he probably couldn't even name her, but like who's finding these people and putting them in the administration? Who's running the show here?
Ron Klain.
But like, who really I don't get why they're staffing the administration with like total activists, like complete wackos.
Well, because
the tree spiking lady too, and like all these people.
Right. That's the same woman who's jogging around on the lands, right? Stolen lands. Interior, right?
No.
Anyway,
the tree spiking lady was like a lower level.
But it's for the same reason.
Yeah.
Because one, they're either true believers in the democratic socialist movement, which this psychotic is, and or obviously their identity is identity politics, and they fit the bill somehow. It's remarkable to me just how incompetent or just mentally impotent so many of these people are.
I mean, if we take back Congress, like sane people take back Congress, can we just like defund a whole bunch of these departments?
I would be obviously all for it.
Like a whole bunch of them. Just get rid of them and see what happens. Like, what would happen if her job didn't exist, this socialist lady? Like, probably nothing, right?
I don't know.
Like, nothing in the United States would fall apart if she didn't have a job, I don't think.
So, I want to get to something as well. Today, my Substack was about kind of working off the Brian Williams thing, which shows you how that I haven't had time to do a Substack. Alice?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Say it a few times.
I'm really sorry about that, but
That's
we
right.
left you today.
So today I did
go to
a
church,
Substack.
and Tom wrote a Substack.
Which of course had one grammatical error and a typo in it, which I saw afterwards. And
I'm sorry.
See, thank you. And so it was just about some of the the Niagara Falls of lies and distortions that the media has done. Starting with Brian Williams, but his were fairly innocent. He was self-aggrandizing in most of his. He's the big hero. The military really loves me. They keep giving me pieces of the helicopter. That my step-on wife told you the story. That story, right? Remember last week? Come on, you're very pretty and nice. You're just a step-on wife. It's worth it. Why are you saying anything? Am I in trouble?
No.
What just made noise? Was that you?
What?
Do you have a box of Tic Tacs there or something?
I was trying not to laugh and my nose made a weird noise. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, listen. So I just happened to go back and look at some of the coverage of some of the things, including the Kavanaugh deal, where last second they decided that Kavanaugh they decided to launder this story. I forgot, Barbara Boxer, is that who did it? Or Feinstein, one of them decided to launder the story of this whack job, saying that she had been assaulted by Kavanaugh, back in 1979 or whatever it was when they were all 15. And of course it was ridiculous, didn't make any sense. Nothing checked out in the story. She contends that her friend was there and witnessed everything. That friend claims that none of it happened and that there was no recollection of anything. They weren't even at the house they said that they were at, that none of it happened. It had zero credibility. Christine Blasey Ford, who says it was epidemic in the
hippocampus.
Hippocampus.
It was indelible in the hippocampus.
Right. That she would remember, but she was obviously she's a nut. Okay, she is. Maybe she's nice. Fine, that's great. Okay, so they didn't even want to, Democrats at first, bring this stuff up, but they thought this is our final push, and the wackos all made them do it, and then all these wacko people yelled at people in elevators, and so they had to listen to her and bring her in. So the news media, of course, takes this all as, it's absolutely true, all the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So listen to the news media, how they reinforce, how their campaign goes to layer story and narrative over narrative on top of each other until it just seeps in. They let you marinate in all these different layers until after a while you're like, oh yeah, Kevin, he's the guy who raped somebody or was trafficking women for sex and this and that. So this is one of the morning show with George Stephanopoulos and the woman. And listen to this. This is I just plucked this little news package I did. This is during the Kavanaugh things.
We've all seen how the allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh are playing out in the media and on Capitol Hill. But how are they being perceived in America's high schools among children the same age Kavanaugh was at the time of the alleged assault?
This controversy surrounding Judge Kavanaugh is really a hot-button issue amongst teens who are experiencing their own awakening.
Was that hot-button issue amongst teens, the Kavanaugh hearings?
No, it was not.
About inappropriate behavior.
There seems to be a direct divide between the perception of these allegations between young girls and young boys.
17-year-old Brennan Leach, a senior in Pennsylvania, says serious actions of teens should matter later in their adult lives.
What happens right now at high school parties or with friends or in social settings should not be any less severe or taken any less seriously than what happens at the adult level.
And some boys, like 17-year-old Harrison Lawson, a member of the National Honor Society in Georgia, agree.
I think once you're 17, or at least in high school, there's a certain level of self-control and understanding of what is right and wrong that everyone just kind of has.
It shows girls my age that
their voices don't matter, that if they are abused or treated badly in high school, it's fine. They should just deal with it because boys will be boys.
When I sit down with my guy friends who are confused, who are doubting the legitimacy of these allegations, and I sort of explain to them in a face-to-face way, what this experience is like for young girls, they do open up their mind. They listen, they're open to hearing, what I have to say, what my friends have to say.
So there you go. Well, the kids, it's now a matter of these kids. Kavanaugh has essentially assaulted them too. So the media now laundered this through youth culture, you see?
Right. The accusations themselves were not supportable by any kind of facts. I mean, this is at the same time as they're bringing out Michael Avenatti to tell us about, completely insane wacko claims. At least with the Christine Blasey Ford, there's some indication that they ran in somewhat the same social circles a little bit around that time. So there's a remote possibility that happened. But the other ones, the Avenatti ones, were just completely off the wall bonkers. They were just having everybody in the world, every complete nutcase call in and say they'd been assaulted by Kavanaugh. So because none of these things were supportable by facts, they instead went to teenagers and were like, what do you think about people assaulting people? Is it good?
Right.
Is it bad? Should people who assault people, should we judge their character later in life?
Are you in the National Honor Society by any chance? Good. That's good. Thank you, Harrison. And it's a totally way to build a false reality. What it is. It's really native advertising for the narrative.
Right, because they're not adding anything to reporting on the facts of what happened or finding out whether it's true or false or any of that.
But it must be true, Alice, because they're reacting to it as if it's totally true. So it must be true. They're backing in. And they're backing the story in that way. Well, if it wasn't true, why would we be reacting to it? Of course it's true.
Well, and Tom, have you ever thought about maybe the next time you doubt Christine Blasey Ford, you should ask some women what it's like to be sexually assaulted and listen to them and open up your mind a little bit, because that really has bearing on whether or not Christine Blasey Ford is telling the truth. Is that someone some other time somewhere was assaulted by somebody totally different? That makes sense. I thought you weren't supposed to use random emotional experiences and feelings and free association of events in order to evaluate something that happened.
There's no level to which they won't keep going. I mean, these stories were a dime a dozen for Trump. The way children were being affected by the way, he, of course, when Trump said that the reporter talked a certain way and made fun of him, they found every disabled kid they could find from coast to coast and threw him in front of a camera and said, how do you think about that?
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We are continuing with a special Patreon segment today, as usual. So if you follow us over there, you can head on over to that. If you want to subscribe to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/burnbarrel. You can find bonus shows and all that stuff there. You can also find us, as usual, for free on twitter.com/burnbarrelpod, facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast, and burnbarrelpodcast.com.